Hello everybody and welcome to today's video that we're going to look at John Finnis's adaptation of natural law as you would find in the WJEC Religious Studies specification in the ethics section under deontological ethics. Thomas Aquinas' natural law is one of the most famous and recognised ethical theories of, the last 1,000 years. Indeed, at 800 years old, it has stood the test of time pretty well. Aquinas said that into the seams of nature, God pitched certain natural laws to help us to be more godly. And that theory has stood the test of time pretty well. But 800 years later, our society has done some changing. Indeed, it's probably done enough changing in the last 2 months, let alone the last 800 years. So how did John Finnis adapt this particular theory to make it more modern? Well, here we are on a sunny Thursday afternoon. I'm in my dining room with a cup of coffee in my hand. So let's find out what John Finnis had to say. John Finnis might look like your kindly grandfather type, but he is in fact one of the brightest legal minds of the 20th and 21st century. He was a professor of legal philosophy in Oxford University up until the year 2010. So he's quite a contemporary scholar. He's not somebody from the ancient past. Finnis's adaptation of natural law says that natural law does not apply comfortably to a modern day society. The society has moved on. So therefore, Finnis says that whilst Aquinas' idea that God pitched these laws into the seams of nature that would help us to live a more godly life were applicable then, now we have to look at what the natural laws, how they would apply today. So Finnis says there is definitely a natural justice that flows throughout humanity. But what's the purpose of those natural laws, that natural justice? Is it to please God? Well, Finnis says that answering godly questions is definitely a part of our lives, but that the natural laws are there to help human beings to flourish. We've all heard the phrase or seen it on Instagram, living my best life, and here I am living my best educational life in my dining room with my coffee teaching you about John Finnis. But actually, this whole idea of human beings flourishing is the cornerstone of what Finnis has to say. It helps us to work out what is good, what is a good action, and what is a bad action. And that's what Finnis is aiming at. So where does John Finnis start? Well, John Finnis starts by actually rejecting Aquinas' primary precepts. The primary precepts were all well and good 800 years ago, says Finnis, but now, in a developed society, they are no longer applicable. Instead of the primary precepts, John Finnis replaces these with the 7 basic goods. 7 things which constitute good behaviour, or the opposite of which would constitute bad behaviour. These 7 basic goods, he says, are universal. This means that they apply across the whole world and across the whole time. They apply to everybody equally. Regardless of your society, they apply to you. They also apply all of the time. You can't just opt in or opt out of some of the basic goods. You don't feel like being that basic good today, I'm going to opt out of it. Well, Finnis says no, they are universal. They have to apply all of the time. Philosophers tend to fall into one of 2 camps. Either rules come from God, or rules can be worked out by human logic and intelligence. And Finnis falls into that latter category. They are evident, he says, from practical reason. As well as being universal, Finnis says that these basic goods are independent of human thought. They are not something that humans have come up with by themselves. However, as he is a reason-based philosopher, he also says they're not something that God has come up with. In fact, what he says is that they exist independently of either God or humanity. That human beings are able to independently work out by reason what these basic goods are. So that if we sit back and we reason and use our intelligence, we will discover these basic goods. We will not come up with them ourselves. John Finnis's 7 basic goods then are what it means to do good things. If the action supports the basic goods, it's a good action. If, however, the action goes against the basic good, it's a bad action. So what are the 7 basic goods? Well, Finnis's first basic good is the good of life. It's the one we might expect. It's that promotion of life, preservation of life, doing things which support life being good. But it's also about leading a healthy life, says Finnis, and also that promoting a good quality of life within people. So any action which does those things is a good action, and any action which goes against those things, therefore, must be a bad action. So murder is still a bad action because it goes against the kind of natural basic good of life. The second basic good is knowledge, that pursuit of things that interest you, that gaining of knowledge, understanding the world around us. Finnis says education is a massively powerful tool. You should want to know about the world around you and be interested in it, and that doing that is a basic good. Pursuing those pieces of knowledge is a good thing. Enjoy it, be excited by knowledge, says Finnis. The third basic good is the basic good of play. Now, what does Finnis mean by play? Well, Finnis here is talking about the good in enjoying things. Now, you and I both have things that we enjoy. I mean, maybe from the small picture just to my up here, you might notice that one of my passions is cars. Yes, okay, what a surprise for those people that know me. But I enjoy doing things with my cars. I enjoy working on my cars. I enjoy going to car shows. That's my enjoyment. Maybe my enjoyment might be derived from television or film or making music or listening to music. And Finnis says we should enjoy those things. That's a good thing to do, because sometimes we feel guilty, don't we? We take time to do things but just because we enjoy them. Finnis says no, that's a good thing. Do things that enjoy you. Derive pleasure from things. Linked quite strongly to the third basic good of play is the fourth. Now, the fourth one is termed as aesthetic experience. Now, that is enjoying the beauty in things and appreciating when we see beautiful things. Going to look at good art, maybe listening to good music, appreciating good creative productions on stage or screen. Appreciating the beauty in what we see is a really important basic good for Finnis. But also creating things, actually doing those things which are creating things that are beautiful. Beauty is a basic good. Number 5 is sociability, i.e. being sociable, actually living in a good, harmonious society. It's really important, says Finnis, to be sociable with other people. Those relationships, be they on a one-to-one relationship or be they the global relationships that we all have as part of our society, are really, really important. So, treating your partner well when you're in a relationship is a basic good. Doing good for the environment because it helps the whole of your society is a basic good. All of those things are positive basic goods. Number 6 is practical reasonableness. Bit of a mouthful, that one. Now, Finnis says that the basic good of deciding how to act morally based on our knowledge and experience is good in itself. So we not only have to be good at making those decisions, but making the good decisions is good. So anything that we do to help make a good decision is a good action. And then finally, number 7, and you wondered where this was going to come, but religion is in at number 7. So what does Finnis mean by the basic good of religion? Does that mean that we all now have to believe in a God, we have to believe in a higher power? Well, actually, Finnis says no, not necessarily. But we all have to consider ultimate questions. And allowing ourselves and others to consider those ultimate questions, to work out about the existence of God, or to work out about how the world came to be, he says that is a basic good in and of itself. Going to church, or going to the mosque, or reading a holy book, or following religious rules may help somebody to answer those ultimate questions, actually help the person to gain some meaning. And Finnis says that in itself is a good thing. So these 7 basic goods, says Finnis, are the basis of human decisions. If your action supports the basic good, then it's a good action. A moral act. Anything that supports one of the basic goods is, according to Finnis, a moral act. And therefore, conversely, an immoral act is any action which harms one of the basic goods. So if you are harming somebody's knowledge or life or aesthetic experience, then that is not a moral action. Now, Finnis says, of course, that these goods apply universally. And actually, there is no one that is more important than the other. There's no hierarchy within the goods. So you can't say that one is more important than the other. But there will be, of course, times when perhaps they clash, and we'll come back to that in a later lesson. But whilst they apply universally, they are going to apply at different stages of life. You try explaining to a toddler, for example, what practical reasonableness means. Now, I've not tried this. I don't happen to have a toddler to hand to do it. But, I would imagine that's going to be a pretty tough sell to a toddler to get them to know what practical reasonableness is all about. So therefore, Finnis says that every educated, mature person should be able to work out for themselves what the basic goods are. And it's all about that reason, working it out for yourself. Whilst there might not be a hierarchy of goods, that some goods are more important than others, there will be some goods which are emphasised more than others at certain times, so says Finnis. So, for example, a doctor or a nurse may well have a higher understanding or a higher use of the basic good of life as they seek to preserve the life of their patients or protect the lives of their patients than maybe some of the others of us. Okay, we all have a responsibility to protect life, but doctors and nurses have that specific importance and the amazing work that they do in order to protect lives. Similarly, a student may have a higher priority on the basic good of knowledge than they do on the basic good of, say, play, because ultimately they are learning. So how do we work out which basic goods to prioritise? How do we work out what's important? Well, Finnis came up with the 9 requirements of practical reason, which help us to understand how we should act in any circumstance. In the next video, that's what we will go through. We'll have a look at the 9 requirements and how they help us to make decisions in a practical way. And indeed, some actions may involve more than one of the basic goods. Think about painting a picture. A picture requires you to have knowledge of which paints to use, of the subject that you're trying to paint. It also involves play, because the enjoyment of painting a picture, if you can paint something that vaguely resembles what you're looking at, then that's a real thing to enjoy. But also aesthetic experience, the idea of being able to appreciate beauty in what it is that you're creating something that others will appreciate too. That's all part of it. So the basic goods can function on multiple levels within one action. So to finish off and recap, Finnis felt that the natural law of Aquinas was somewhat outdated and no longer applied in a developed society. Therefore, out the window went the 5 primary precepts and in came 7 basic goods. These are 7 motivators behind good actions. Any action which participates in a basic good is a good action, and any action that goes against or harms a basic good is a bad action. These basic goods are not only basic and easy to work out by using reason, they are universal. They apply to all people all of the time. We cannot pick and choose which goods we will use. The question that arises from that then is, how do we work out what's right when 2 goods seemingly conflict? And the ideal nature of these basic goods sounds great, but putting them into practice, how does that work? This is what we'll discover in the next video as we understand Finnis's 9 requirements of practical reason. This is how he then put those 7 basic goods into action in a practical sense. How he applied practical reasonableness, i.e. basic good number 6, in order to be able to make those good moral decisions. As we finish, can I say thank you for watching today's video and for engaging with it. I hope you found it useful and that you've learned something from it. For my Year 12 students, there are going to be activities based on today's video on Microsoft Teams for you. I want you to identify what actions might be considered good by participating in the basic goods and the actions that might be considered bad by going against the basic goods, and to start to consider how you might apply this into real life contexts. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye now.